While serving a table at a luxury event, the waitress froze when she saw the photo in the millionaire's wallet. It was the same photo of her husband who passed away 8 years ago. The alarm clock blared at 5:30 a.m., same as every morning. Madison Martell's hand shot out from beneath the covers, silencing it before it could wake Mason. She lay there for just a moment, eyes fixed on the ceiling, allowing herself 5 seconds, no more, to feel the weight pressing down on her chest. 5 seconds to acknowledge the emptiness on the other side of the bed. 5 seconds to miss him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then she was up, feet hitting the cold floor of the small 2-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Charleston. Madison had a system, and systems kept her world from falling apart. Shower, coffee, lunch prep for Mason, breakfast, wake Mason. Make sure he had everything for school. Kiss goodbye, out the door by 7:15 to make her first shift at Riverside Diner, where the morning regulars would already be waiting for their coffee refills. As steam filled the tiny bathroom, Madison caught her reflection in the mirror. At 34, she was still beautiful. High cheekbones, bright blue eyes that Mason had inherited, and a natural grace that no amount of exhaustion seemed able to diminish. But 8 years of single motherhood had left their mark. Fine lines around her eyes, a permanent crease between her brows, and a wariness that hadn't been there when Damon was alive. Damon. The hot water hit her back, and her mind drifted to that morning 8 years ago. The last normal day. Damon making pancakes in the shape of spaceships for 4-year-old Mason. His laugh when Mason said they looked more like squashed frogs. The casual, "love you," as he grabbed his keys. The quick kiss that she'd barely returned because she was busy wiping syrup from Mason's chin. If she'd known it was their last kiss. Madison shook her head, sending water droplets flying against the shower curtain. No use going down that road again. She had a double shift today, and then the catering gig at the Walker estate tonight. The extra money would help with Mason's science camp deposit, due next week. "Mom?" Mason's sleepy voice called through the door. "Can I have the last Pop-Tart?" Madison smiled despite herself. 12-year-old boys and their stomachs. "There's oatmeal on the counter," she called back. "The Pop-Tart is for your lunch." The groan was audible even through the running water. "You're picking up the Walker event tonight, right?" Josie asked, sliding past Madison with 3 plates balanced expertly along her arm. Riverside Diner was packed for the Friday lunch rush. Every booth filled with a mix of locals and tourists, drawn by the restaurant's reputation for authentic Southern cooking. "Yeah, Carol called yesterday. They need extra servers." Madison refilled coffee for the elderly couple at table 6. They were regulars who always left her exact change plus a $5 tip, folded into an origami bird by the husband. "The Walker Mansion," Josie whistled low. "Heard that place has gold faucets in every bathroom." Madison shrugged, tucking a stray strand of hair behind her ear. "I'm just glad for the extra hours. Mason needs new sneakers again. Kid's growing like a weed." Josie's eyes softened. "You know, if you ever need help." "We're doing fine," Madison interrupted, a bit too quickly. She'd had this conversation too many times in the past 8 years. Well-meaning offers of help, pitying looks when people learned she was the widow Martell. She'd rather work 3 jobs than accept charity. The truth was, they were getting by, but just barely. Damon's life insurance had paid off most of their debts, but she'd had to sell their house after the first year. The apartment was small but clean, in a decent school district. Mason had friends, played baseball, and didn't seem to notice that his clothes came from discount stores while his friends wore designer labels. But college was only 6 years away, and the savings account Madison had started for that purpose held less than $1,000. "Table 12 needs their check," Madison said, changing the subject. That evening, as she tied the black bow tie required for the catering staff, Madison felt a familiar pang of what might have been. Damon had come from money. Old money. Not that you'd know it from meeting him. He'd driven a 10-year-old Volvo when they met, worked as a high school history teacher, and lived in a modest apartment. It wasn't until after they were engaged that he'd taken her to meet his family in their sprawling estate outside Charleston. The Martells had made their fortune in shipping 3 generations back, and while they weren't billionaires, they lived comfortably in the upper echelons of Southern society. They'd also made it abundantly clear that Madison, a waitress from the wrong side of town with no college degree, and a mother who'd battled addiction, was not what they had envisioned for their son. Damon had cut ties with them after a particularly nasty confrontation at their engagement dinner. "You're my family now," he'd told her that night, holding her as she cried. "We'll make our own way." And they had. Those first 4 years of marriage had been the happiest of Madison's life, even with the financial struggles. Even with his family's disapproval hanging over them, they'd been deliriously happy. Then came the accident, and everything changed. The police said Damon's car had gone off Palmetto Bridge at high speed. Brake failure, possibly, though they never found enough of the vehicle to be certain. The current had been strong that day. They'd recovered his body 2 miles downstream, too damaged for an open casket. Madison had identified him by his wedding ring and the small crescent-shaped scar near his right eye, a childhood reminder of his cousin's poor aim with a fishing hook. Not a single member of the Martell family had attended the funeral. "Mom, are you okay?" Mason stood in the doorway of her bedroom, lanky and tousle-haired, looking more like Damon every day. Madison blinked away the memories and smiled. "Just thinking about how handsome you're getting. You'll break some hearts soon." Mason rolled his eyes with the perfect disdain only a preteen could master. "Ms. Abernathy's here?" She brought cookies. Their elderly neighbor watched Mason during Madison's evening shifts, a blessing Madison thanked God for regularly. "I won't be too late tonight, probably home by midnight." She kissed the top of his head, a move he allowed only when they were alone, and grabbed her purse. "Homework done?" "Yes, and I emptied the dishwasher and took out the trash. Can I stay up till you get home?" Madison hesitated, then nodded. "But only if you're reading. No video games after 10. His smile was pure Damon, the same crooked grin that had made her heart skip the first time she'd seen it across the diner where they met. She pushed away the familiar ache and headed for the door, where Mrs. Abernathy was already settling into her favorite armchair with her knitting. Little did Madison know that tonight, a night like countless others in the 8 years since Damon's death, would be the night everything changed. The night the past would come rushing back with the force of a tidal wave, sweeping away everything she thought she knew. The night she would see a ghost in a photograph. The Walker estate sprawled across 3 acres of pristine Charleston waterfront, its white columns gleaming like teeth in the glow of strategically placed landscape lighting. Madison drove through the ornate iron gates in her weathered Honda Civic, feeling distinctly out of place among the parade of luxury vehicles. "First time at the Walker place?" asked the security guard who checked her ID against the catering staff list. "Is it that obvious?" Madison attempted a smile. "You got that look." The guard handed back her license. "Service entrance is around back. Follow the drive and take the second right." Carol Jenkins, the catering company owner, met Madison at the service entrance. A small, perpetually harried woman with 3 decades of experience managing high society events. Carol ran a tight ship. "We're serving 78 tonight. Cocktail hour in the Grand Salon. Then a 5-course dinner in the ballroom." She handed Madison a black apron and a tray. "Stick to your assigned section. Smile but don't chat. And for God's sake, don't drop anything. These people spend more on a bottle of wine than you make in a week." The Grand Salon lived up to its name. A vast room with soaring ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Charleston Harbor. Men in tailored suits and women dripping in jewelry mingled in small groups, their laughter a little too loud, their gestures a little too expansive. Madison moved efficiently between clusters of guests, offering canapés from her silver tray. She'd done this often enough to become nearly invisible. The perfect server, present when needed, forgotten when not. It was a skill that had served her well over the years. Walker's latest acquisition in Singapore. Heard the deal cleared 9 figures, thinking of taking the yacht to St. Bart's this winter. Fragments of conversation washed over her as she navigated the room. Madison had learned long ago not to be intimidated by wealth. Money didn't guarantee happiness. She'd seen enough miserable rich people to know that. Still, she couldn't help but wonder how different Mason's life might have been if Damon's family hadn't cut them off. "Champagne refill on the terrace, stat," Carol hissed as she passed. "VIPs." Madison grabbed a bottle from the service bar and headed toward the terrace doors. Outside, the night air carried the scent of salt water and jasmine. A small group had gathered around a man whose back was to Madison, even from behind. She could tell he commanded the room, shoulders straight, gestures confident, head thrown back in easy laughter. "Gentlemen, if I could trouble you for a top-up," Madison said, approaching with the champagne bottle. The group parted slightly, and she got her first clear look at Eric Walker. He wasn't what she expected. Instead of the aging tycoon she'd imagined, Eric Walker appeared to be in his early 40s, tall and fit, with dark hair lightly salted with gray at the temples. He had the look of someone who worked out regularly, but also enjoyed good food and wine. His eyes, sharp, intelligent, assessing, locked with hers briefly as she refilled his glass. "Thank you." He paused, looking for a name tag she wasn't wearing. "Madison," she supplied automatically. "Thank you, Madison." His smile seemed genuine, lacking the condescension she often encountered at these events. Impeccable timing. She nodded politely and continued around the circle. Filling glasses as she finished and prepared to retreat, Eric turned to one of his companions, a silver-haired man with a deep tan. "James was just asking about the Sydney project, Eric," the man said. "I mentioned your meeting with Damon last week went well." Madison's hand tightened involuntarily on the bottle. Damon wasn't an uncommon name, she reminded herself. It didn't mean anything. "Very well," Eric replied. "He's cautious, of course, but I think we're close to getting his full commitment." Madison moved away, telling herself not to read into coincidences. Charleston was a small city in many ways, especially in business circles. There were probably dozens of men named Damon moving through Eric Walker's world. Back inside, Carol directed her to clear empty glasses from a table near the grand piano. As Madison stacked flutes onto her tray, her eye caught on something lying on the table, a sleek leather wallet. Left carelessly beside an empty glass, she glanced around, confirming no one was watching, then picked up the wallet, intending to turn it in to the staff manager. It fell open in her hand, and the world stopped. There, protected behind a plastic sleeve, was a photograph. Recent, glossy, high quality. Two men stood on what appeared to be the deck of a yacht, arms around each other's shoulders, squinting into bright sunlight. One was unmistakably Eric Walker. The other was Damon, her Damon. The same strong jaw, the same crinkles around his eyes when he smiled, the same small crescent scar near his right eye, the scar she had traced with her fingertip countless times, the scar she had identified at the morgue 8 years ago. Madison felt the blood drain from her face, her ears filled with a rushing sound, the tray of glasses tilted precariously in her suddenly nerveless fingers. "Whoa there." A hand steadied the tray, preventing disaster. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." Madison blinked, forcing herself to focus on the concerned face of another server. Tyler, she vaguely remembered from the pre-event briefing. "I'm fine," she managed, her voice sounding distant to her own ears. "Just got dizzy for a second." Tyler took the tray from her hands. "Take a minute, I've got this." Madison nodded mutely, her eyes drawn back to the wallet still in her hand. She needed to return it, needed to act normal, but her body seemed disconnected from her brain. "Miss Martell, the wallet, please." She looked up to find Eric Walker standing before her, hand extended, expression unreadable. Had he called her by her last name? She hadn't given it. "I was just about to turn it in," she said automatically, handing it over. His fingers brushed hers as he took the wallet, and for an instant, Madison thought she saw something flicker in his eyes. Recognition, concern, but it was gone so quickly she might have imagined it. "Thank you for your honesty," he said smoothly. Then, after the briefest hesitation, "Are you sure you're all right? You look rather pale." "I'm fine," Madison repeated, the lie bitter on her tongue. "Excuse me." She fled to the service hallway, barely making it to the staff bathroom before her legs gave out. Sinking onto the closed toilet lid, she pressed trembling hands to her face. It wasn't possible. She'd identified his body. She'd buried him. She'd grieved for 8 years. Yet the man in that photo was Damon. Older, yes, with a few more lines around his eyes. A slightly different hairstyle, but unmistakably. Impossibly, her husband Madison took a deep, shuddering breath. She needed to think, needed to be rational. There had to be an explanation. A look-alike, a relative she didn't know about, a trick of light and wishful thinking. But the scar, that distinctive crescent-shaped scar, what were the odds of a doppelganger having that exact same mark? A knock at the door jolted her back to reality. "Madison, Carol's looking for you. Break's over." Tyler's voice sounded concerned. "Coming," she called, splashing cold water on her face. She stared at her reflection, pale, eyes wide with shock but outwardly intact. She could do this. She could get through the next few hours. And then she would figure out what the hell was going on. Because if there was even the slightest chance Damon was alive, and the photo suggested there was, nothing in heaven or earth would stop her from finding the truth. The next morning, Madison sat at her kitchen table, laptop open, coffee untouched. The house was quiet. Mason had left for a weekend baseball tournament with his friend's family. The solitude, usually a rare luxury, now felt oppressive as her mind replayed the previous night's discovery on an endless loop. The Walker event had passed in a blur after seeing the photograph. Madison had functioned on autopilot, serving and clearing with mechanical precision while her thoughts tumbled chaotically. Several times she'd noticed Eric Walker watching her from across the room, his expression unreadable. Once he'd started walking in her direction, only to be intercepted by a woman in a shimmering silver dress. Madison had left the moment her shift ended, avoiding Carol's post-event staff meeting. She'd driven home in a daze, grateful that Mrs. Abernathy had fallen asleep in the armchair and Mason in his bed, sparing her from having to maintain a facade of normalcy. Now, in the harsh light of morning, doubt crept in. Had she really seen what she thought she'd seen? Could grief and exhaustion have played tricks on her eyes? No, she muttered, typing Eric Walker Charleston into the search bar. "I know what I saw." The search yielded thousands of results. Eric Walker was, as she'd suspected, a major player in Charleston business circles. Walker Enterprises had holdings in shipping, real estate, and technology. Articles described him as a visionary entrepreneur and private billionaire. Few personal details emerged. He seemed to guard his privacy zealously. Madison clicked through dozens of images, looking for any sign of Damon. Nothing. Photos showed Eric at charity galas, business conferences, ribbon cuttings, always alone or with obvious business associates. No wife, no family, and no Damon. She tried a different tack, searching for Damon Martell alive. This yielded only old obituaries and a memorial page his students had created after the accident. 4 hours and 3 cups of coffee later, Madison had learned plenty about Eric Walker's business empire, but nothing to explain why he had a photo of her supposedly dead husband in his wallet. Her phone buzzed with a text from Carol. "You left without signing out last night. Also, Walker staff requested you specifically for their corporate dinner Monday." Yes, no. Madison's heart leapt. This was it. Her way back in. "Yes, sorry about last night's stomach bug," she typed back. Carol's response came immediately. "Be there at 6. Don't flake again." Monday seemed an eternity away. Madison couldn't wait that long. She needed to get closer to Eric Walker, to find more evidence. To confirm what her heart already knew, she opened a new browser tab and searched for Walker Enterprises Charleston office. The Walker Enterprises headquarters occupied a renovated historic building on East Bay Street. Madison parked a block away and studied the entrance from her car. Employees streamed in and out, some in suits, others in the casual attire typical of tech companies. She'd dressed with care in her one business-appropriate outfit: black slacks, a blue button-down shirt, and low heels. Her resume, hastily updated that morning, rested in a folder on the passenger seat. The plan was simple, if desperate. Walk in and apply for a job. Any job that might get her close to Eric Walker. Madison took a deep breath, checked her appearance in the rearview mirror, and stepped out of the car. She was halfway across the street when a familiar voice stopped her cold. "Mrs. Martell, this is unexpected." She turned to find Eric Walker himself, standing beside a sleek black Audi, sunglasses hiding his eyes. Up close, he was taller than she'd realized. Intimidating. "Mr. Walker." Madison struggled to keep her voice steady. "I was just looking for me, I'd imagine." He removed his sunglasses, revealing those piercing eyes she remembered from the party. "Perhaps we should talk." It wasn't a question. He opened the passenger door of the Audi and gestured for her to get in. Every self-preservation instinct screamed at Madison to run. Getting into a strange man's car was exactly the kind of thing she'd warned Mason never to do, yet this wasn't a stranger. This was a man who somehow knew her husband, who might have answers. She got in. Eric slid behind the wheel but didn't start the engine. For a long moment, he simply stared straight ahead, hands resting on the steering wheel. "The photograph," he finally said. "You saw it." "Yes. And you recognized him?" Madison turned to face him, abandoning all pretense. "That was my husband in that photo, my husband who supposedly died 8 years ago. I want to know how that's possible, and I want to know now." Eric sighed, a sound heavy with what seemed like resignation. "It's complicated. Uncomplicate. His mouth quirked slightly, almost admiringly. "It's not safe to talk here. I have a meeting I can't miss, but I'll have my assistant reach out to set something up." He handed her a business card. "My private number is on the back. Don't call unless it's an emergency." "I'm not leaving without answers," Madison insisted, frustration mounting. "You'll get them, but this is bigger than you know, and rushing in could be dangerous. For everyone involved." His gaze intensified, "including your son." The mention of Mason sent a chill through Madison. "Are you threatening my child?" "God, no." Eric looked genuinely horrified. "I'm warning you that others might. Please, just wait for my call. 24 hours. Before she could respond, a tap on the window made them both jump. A severe-looking woman with a tablet peered in, pointing urgently at her watch. "I have to go," Eric said. 24 hours, Mrs. Martell. Then you'll have answers." Madison reluctantly exited the car. Watching as Eric and the woman strode quickly into the building, she stood on the sidewalk, business card clutched in her hand, feeling more confused than ever. "Mom, are you even listening?" Madison blinked, realizing Mason had asked her a question. They were in the middle of dinner, takeout pizza because she hadn't been able to focus enough to cook. "Sorry, buddy, what did you say?" Mason rolled his eyes. "I asked if I could go to Jake's Tuesday night for a project. His dad will pick me up after practice." "Oh, sure, that's fine." She forced a smile. "How was the tournament?" "We lost the championship game, but I got a double in the 3rd inning." Mason studied her face. "Are you okay? You're acting weird." "Just tired." The lie came automatically. "Tell me more about your game." As Mason launched into a play-by-play account, Madison tried to focus, but her mind kept drifting back to Eric Walker's cryptic warning. What danger could possibly threaten them after all this time? And how had Damon, if it really was him, survived the accident that had shattered their lives? Her phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. "Walker residence, 10 a.m. tomorrow, car will pick you up, come alone." Madison's pulse quickened. Less than 24 hours until she might see Damon again. The thought was simultaneously thrilling and terrifying. "Mom, seriously, what's going on?" Mason's voice broke through her thoughts. "You keep zoning out." Madison reached across the table and squeezed his hand. At 12, he was perceptive beyond his years, another trait inherited from his father. "Actually, there is something," she said slowly, uncertain how much to reveal. "I might have found information about your dad." Mason went very still. "What kind of information?" "I don't know yet. I'm meeting someone tomorrow who might be able to tell me more." "About the accident." Mason's voice was carefully neutral. But Madison could see the pain beneath. Damon's death had left a wound in Mason that had never fully healed. "Yes, about what really happened." Mason nodded slowly. "Will you tell me, after everything?" Madison hesitated. How could she promise to tell him everything when she didn't know what everything entailed? If there was even a chance Damon was alive, what would that mean for Mason, for all of them? "As soon as I understand it myself," she promised. "But Mason, I need you to be prepared for anything. This might turn out to be nothing, or it might change everything," he said quietly, his eyes, so like Damon's, meeting hers. Madison nodded, unable to speak around the sudden lump in her throat. Her son, her sweet, perceptive son, had hit the nail on the head. Tomorrow might change everything. The car that arrived at Madison's apartment the next morning wasn't the sleek Audi Eric had driven, but a discreet black SUV with tinted windows. The driver, a compact, muscular man with a buzz cut, said nothing beyond confirming her identity. Before holding the door open, Madison hesitated only briefly before climbing in. She'd spent the night alternating between wild hope and crushing doubt. Sleep had been elusive, her mind racing with questions. After dropping Mason at school, she'd changed outfits 3 times. finally settling on a simple blue dress that Damon had always loved. If it was really him she would see today. The SUV wound through Charleston's historic district before turning onto a private drive Madison didn't recognize. They passed through an electronic gate and proceeded down a tree-lined avenue, eventually stopping before a modern glass and steel structure tucked discreetly behind old-growth oaks. "Mr. Walker's private residence," the driver explained, breaking his silence. "He'll meet you inside." The building looked nothing like the colonial mansion where the fundraiser had been held. That, Madison realized, must have been one of Walker's public properties. The face he presented to Charleston society, this sleek, minimalist home, suggested a different man altogether. A tall, broad-shouldered man in plain clothes opened the front door as she approached. His stance and watchful eyes screamed security. "Professional." "Mrs. Martell," he nodded. "Mr. Walker is waiting in the study. This way, please." Inside, the home was all clean lines and open space, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a secluded garden. Fine art adorned the walls, not the stuffy portraits and hunting scenes that hung in old Charleston mansions, but striking contemporary pieces. The security man led her to a set of double doors, knocked once, and stepped aside. "Come in, Madison," Eric Walker's voice called from within. The study was a warm contrast to the rest of the house. Wood-paneled walls, leather furniture, and bookshelves reaching to the ceiling. Eric stood by a wide desk, dressed casually in jeans and a button-down shirt. "Thank you for coming," he said, gesturing to a seating area by the window. "Coffee?" "No." Madison remained standing. "I didn't come for small talk." Eric sighed and sat down in one of the leather armchairs. "I figured as much. Please sit. What I have to tell you will take some time." Reluctantly, Madison took the chair opposite him. "Is Damon alive?" "Yes." The simple affirmation hit Madison like a physical blow. Despite her suspicions, despite the evidence of the photograph, hearing it confirmed made her dizzy. She gripped the arms of the chair, steadying herself. "Where is he? Why isn't he here? Does he know I'm coming?" "One question at a time," Eric said gently. "To understand where Damon is now, you need to understand what happened 8 years ago. The accident," Madison whispered. "It wasn't an accident." Eric's voice hardened. "It was an attempted murder." Madison's breath caught. "What?" "The brake lines in Damon's car were deliberately cut. He was meant to die on that bridge. Who would..." Madison began, then stopped as a memory surfaced. Raised voices at the Martell family estate. Damon and his uncle Augustus in a heated argument in the library. "You'll regret crossing me." "Boy, the Martell legacy is bigger than your schoolteacher fantasies." "His family," she breathed. "But why? Because he married me." "Partly," Eric conceded, "but mostly because of what he discovered about Augustus's business dealings." He rose and went to a cabinet, retrieving a thick folder. The Martell shipping empire wasn't as legitimate as everyone believed. Augustus had connections with some very dangerous people. Arms dealing, money laundering, serious criminal enterprise. Damon found evidence and was going to turn it over to the FBI. And they tried to kill him for it, Madison said, the pieces falling into place. They thought they had succeeded. Eric handed her the folder. "These are police photos from the crash site. The car was mangled beyond recognition, and the body..." He hesitated. "I identified him," Madison said, the horrible memory washing over her. "At the morgue." "You identified a body," Eric corrected. "But it wasn't Damon's." Madison's head snapped up. "What, then, whose?" "A John Doe from the county morgue, similar height and build. The face was unrecognizable, but the me put the distinctive scar near the eye, a detail that few people knew about, just enough for a positive eye from a grieving widow." Madison felt sick. She'd identified a stranger, believing it was her husband. She'd buried a stranger, grieved for years while Damon was alive somewhere. "How do you know all this?" she demanded. "Because I helped him disappear." Eric's gaze held hers steadily. "Damon and I had been friends since college. He came to me after finding the evidence against Augustus. Afraid for your safety, we set up contingency plans just in case. When the accident happened, we put them into action." "You faked his death," Madison said numbly. "It was the only way to keep you and Mason safe. If Augustus believed Damon was dead, the threat would die with him." Madison stood abruptly, anger suddenly overwhelming her confusion. "You had no right." Do you have any idea what we went through? Mason grew up without his father because of your plan, and he grew up alive because of it, Eric countered, his own voice rising. Augustus would have had all of you killed if he thought Damon had survived to testify. So what changed? Madison demanded. Why are you telling me this now, after 8 years? Eric hesitated. Because Augustus is dying. Cancer. He has months left at most. His grip on the organization is weakening, and we finally have enough evidence to bring down his operation for good. Madison paced the length of the study, trying to process everything. So Damon just, built a new life while watching from afar as his son grew up without him, as I struggled to keep our heads above water. It destroyed him, Eric said quietly. He tried to help where he could. The anonymous scholarship for Mason's school. The mysterious buyer who paid off your medical bills after your appendectomy 3 years ago. That was all Damon. Madison froze. He's been watching us. Protecting you from a distance. She shook her head, remembering strange occurrences over the years. The feeling of being watched at Mason's school functions. Anonymous gifts on birthdays. The job offer that had come at exactly the right time when she'd been about to lose the apartment. I want to see him, she said firmly. Now. Eric checked his watch. He's not here, Madison. He's in a secure location outside the city, but he knows you're coming. When? Tomorrow. I'll take you to him myself. Eric stood. But you need to understand. He's not the same man you knew. 8 years of living in the shadows changes a person. I don't care, Madison said fiercely. I need to see him with my own eyes. As if on cue, the study door opened and the security man stepped in. Sir, we have a situation. Eric tensed. What kind of situation, James? Surveillance picked up a car circling the block. Same vehicle passed 3 times in 15 minutes. Get the plates, Eric ordered, his casual demeanor vanishing, replaced by sharp authority. And bring the car around. Mrs. Martell needs to leave, now. What's happening? Madison asked, alarmed by the sudden shift. Probably nothing, Eric said, but his expression belied his words. But we don't take chances. James will take you home. Stay there. Don't go to work. Don't go out. I'll contact you with instructions for tomorrow. But, Madison, Eric gripped her shoulders, his face inches from hers. This isn't a game. If anyone from the Martell organization suspects you know Damon is alive, you're in danger. Do you understand? The intensity in his eyes finally penetrated her confusion. This was real. The danger was real. I understand, she whispered. Good. Eric released her and turned to James. Get her home safely, full protocol. As James hustled her toward the door, Madison glanced back one last time. Eric was already on the phone, speaking in low, urgent tones. Don't worry, James said as they hurried down the hallway. We've been keeping you and your son safe for 8 years. We're not about to stop now. 8 years. For 8 years. Unknown guardians had been watching over them while she remained oblivious, while she mourned a husband who wasn't dead. Tomorrow, she would finally see Damon again. The thought filled her with equal parts anticipation and dread. What would she say to the man who had let her believe he was dead for 8 years? Could she forgive him? Could they ever rebuild what they had lost? And most importantly, how would she tell Mason that his father was alive? Madison spent the rest of the day in a fog of anxiety and anticipation. James had delivered her home with military precision, checking the apartment before leaving her with stern instructions to stay inside and keep the doors locked. He'd given her a burner phone with a single number programmed into it. For emergencies only. Mason wouldn't be home until evening. He was going straight from school to baseball practice for once. Madison was grateful for his busy schedule. She needed time to process everything before facing her son. How could she possibly explain this to him? Hey, buddy, remember your dad who died when you were 4? Turns out he's been alive this whole time, living under a fake identity while dangerous criminals hunted him down. She paced the small apartment, alternately furious at the deception and overwhelmed with relief that Damon was alive. The rational part of her understood the logic behind the decision. Keeping Mason safe was paramount, but the emotional part felt betrayed beyond measure. 8 years. 8 years of struggling as a single mother. 8 years of watching Mason's face fall every Father's Day. 8 years of answering his increasingly complex questions about the father he barely remembered. And all that time, Damon had been alive, watching from afar, stepping in anonymously when things got desperate. The scholarship, the medical bills, the jobs that materialized just when she needed them most. A cold realization struck her. Carol Jenkins, the catering company owner, had hired her without an interview 4 years ago, offering flexible hours that worked around Mason's school schedule. Had that been orchestrated too? The doorbell rang. Startling Madison from her thoughts, she approached cautiously, peering through the peephole. Eric Walker stood in the hallway, looking considerably less composed than he had that morning. His hair was disheveled, his expression grim. Madison opened the door. "What's wrong?" "We need to move up the timeline," Eric said without preamble, stepping inside and glancing around the apartment. "Where's Mason?" "Baseball practice. He won't be home until 6. Alarm rose in Madison's chest. "Why? What's happened?" Eric ran a hand through his hair. "Augustus's people are more active than we anticipated. One of our surveillance cameras picked up known associates of his outside your son's school this morning." The blood drained from Madison's face. "They're watching Mason. Possibly, or it could be coincidence." Eric didn't sound convinced of the latter. "Either way, we're not taking chances. I have people bringing Mason to a secure location directly from practice. You need to pack a bag. Essentials only. You're both going into protective custody until this is resolved." "Wait," Madison protested, struggling to keep up. "You can't just take my son without my permission." "I'm not taking him anywhere without you," Eric clarified. "But we need to move now. Pack enough for a few days." Madison hesitated only briefly before grabbing a duffel bag from the hall closet. Years of single motherhood had taught her to prioritize quickly. Medications first, then clothes, toiletries, Mason's favorite hoodie, his tablet containing all his schoolwork. As she moved through the apartment, Eric received a call. His side of the conversation was terse. "Secure? Good. Add a 30 minutes. Full protocol." He hung up and turned to Madison. "Mason is safe. My head of security picked him up personally. Told his coach it was a family emergency." "This is insane," Madison muttered, zipping the duffel. "We have lives here, jobs, school. I can't just disappear." "You can for a few days," Eric countered. "What you can't do is risk your son's life because Augustus Martell is tying up loose ends before he dies." Madison stopped short. "What do you mean, loose ends?" Eric hesitated. "Augustus knows he's dying. He's getting his affairs in order, including eliminating anything that might threaten his legacy or expose his crimes after he's gone. And we're on that list." Madison felt sick. "You shouldn't be as far as the world knows. Damon died 8 years ago, and you're just his widow who moved on with her life." Eric's expression darkened. "But something has changed. Someone may have tipped them off. The photograph," Madison realized. "At the party, someone saw me looking at it." Eric nodded grimly. "It's possible. There were many eyes in that room." Madison finished packing and followed Eric down to the waiting SUV, her mind racing. In the span of 3 days, her carefully constructed life had been completely upended. The husband she'd mourned was alive. The accident she'd accepted was murder. And now she and Mason were being whisked away into protective custody like characters in a witness protection movie. "Where are we going?" she asked as they pulled away from the apartment complex. "One of my properties outside the city," Eric replied, checking his mirrors with practiced vigilance. "It's isolated, secure, and not connected to my public holdings." Madison studied his profile. For the first time, she considered Eric Walker himself, rather than just his connection to Damon. Why had he dedicated 8 years to this elaborate protection scheme? What was his stake in all this? "Why are you doing this?" she asked bluntly. "What's your connection to the Martells besides college friendship?" Eric's hands tightened on the steering wheel. For a moment, she thought he might evade the question. But then he sighed. "Damon saved my life in college. Literal life-saving, not metaphorical." His voice was quiet, reflective. "Spring break, sophomore year. A group of us went diving off the Florida Keys. I got caught in a current, panicked, ran out of air. Damon found me unconscious at 30 feet and brought me up. Performed CPR until the paramedics arrived." He glanced at Madison. "The kind of debt you never forget. When he came to me 8 years ago with evidence of his uncle's crimes, asking for help protecting you and Mason, there was no question. I owed him everything. Madison absorbed this, seeing Eric in a new light. Not just the billionaire businessman, but a man honoring a life debt to her husband. It didn't excuse the deception, but it helped explain the dedication. There's more to it than just gratitude, isn't there? She pressed, sensing layers he wasn't revealing. A ghost of a smile touched Eric's lips. You're perceptive. Damon always said that about you. He hesitated. Let's just say Augustus Martel's operation caused harm to more people than just Damon's family. I have my own reasons for wanting to see justice done. Before Madison could probe further, Eric's phone rang. He answered through the car's Bluetooth. Walker. Sir, we have a situation at the safe house. The voice was James's, tight with tension. Surveillance detected a breach attempt. Remote sensors on the perimeter were disabled. Eric swore under his breath. Status of our package. Secure. We're relocating to contingency site Charlie. Understood. Adjust our rendezvous accordingly. Eric ended the call and abruptly turned the SUV onto a narrow side road. Change of plans. We're taking a different route. What's happening? Madison demanded, fear constricting her throat. Is Mason okay? He's fine, Eric assured her, his driving suddenly more aggressive. But it seems our security protocols have been compromised. Someone knew about the safe house. How is that possible? That's the million-dollar question. Eric's expression was grim. We've kept Damon's survival secret for 8 years. Only a handful of people knew. All vetted, all loyal. For someone to know about our safe house network means we have a leak. Madison watched the familiar landmarks of Charleston disappear as they headed into the surrounding countryside. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the fields and forests they passed. When will I see Mason? She asked, her maternal instinct overriding all other concerns. Soon, within the hour, Eric turned onto an unmarked gravel road. And Madison. Yes, tomorrow you'll see Damon too. After 8 years, his voice softened. Are you ready for that? Madison stared out at the darkening landscape, her emotions a turbulent mix of anticipation, anger, and lingering disbelief. I don't know, she answered honestly. How do you prepare to meet a ghost? The contingency site turned out to be a lakeside cabin nestled among towering pines. Modest from the outside, it revealed surprising sophistication within. State-of-the-art security systems, satellite communications, and comfortable but functional furnishings. Mason was already there when they arrived, sitting at a wooden table with a sandwich and a puzzled expression. He jumped up when Madison entered. Mom, what's going on? These guys showed up at practice and said there was some kind of emergency. Madison enveloped him in a tight hug, relief washing through her at the solid reality of him in her arms. Everything's okay, she murmured into his hair, which still smelled of baseball dust and teenage boy sweat. It's complicated, but we're safe. Safe from what? Mason pulled back, his eyes, so like Damon's, sharp with curiosity and apprehension. No one will tell me anything. Madison looked to Eric, who stood in the doorway conferring with James. He caught her gaze and nodded slightly. Permission granted. Let's sit down, Madison said, guiding Mason back to the table. There's something I need to tell you about your dad. Eric quietly withdrew, giving them privacy. Madison sat across from her son, hands clasped tightly together. You know how I told you I was looking into some information about what happened to your dad? She began. Mason nodded, watching her face intently. Did you find out something bad? Not bad, exactly, just unexpected. Madison took a deep breath. Mason, your father didn't die in that car accident 8 years ago. The boy's expression froze. What do you mean? The accident was staged. Your dad had to go into hiding to protect us from some very dangerous people who wanted to hurt him. And maybe us too. Mason sat perfectly still, processing this bombshell. When he finally spoke, his voice was small. Dad's alive. Yes, for real. This isn't like a mistake or something. For real. Madison reached across to take his hand. I haven't seen him yet, but I've seen recent photos, Mr. Walker, the man who brought me here. He's been helping your dad stay hidden all these years. Mason's face underwent a rapid series of transformations. Shock, disbelief, hope, and then, suddenly, anger. He pulled his hand away. So, he just left us, for 8 years. Why didn't he take us with him? It's complicated, sweetheart. There are bad people involved. Criminals, your dad's uncle, Augustus, tried to have him killed because your dad discovered something illegal he was doing. Great Uncle Augustus. Mason looked bewildered. The old guy in the photos Dad used to show me. Madison nodded, surprised that Mason remembered. Damon had kept a few family photos despite the estrangement, occasionally showing them to Mason when he was small. He's the head of your dad's family, she explained, and apparently, he's been involved in some very bad business. Your dad found evidence of it and was going to tell the police. So he faked his death instead, and left us thinking he was dead. The hurt in Mason's voice broke Madison's heart. He thought he was protecting us, Mason. If these people knew he was alive, they might have come after us to get to him. Mason absorbed this, his young face struggling with emotions too complex for his years. When can I see him? Tomorrow, I think Mr. Walker says. A knock at the door interrupted her. Eric stepped partially into the room. Sorry to intrude, but there's something you both need to see. He was holding a laptop. This might help explain things. He placed the computer on the table and opened a video file. Damon recorded this for Mason a few years ago in case something like this happened. Eric hit play and stepped back. The screen filled with a face Madison knew better than her own, though subtly altered by time. Damon's hair was shorter, his face leaner, a few strands of gray at his temples that hadn't been there 8 years ago. But his eyes were the same, warm, intelligent, and now filled with visible emotion. Hey, buddy, he began, his voice sending a shock through Madison's system. If you're watching this, it means the truth has finally come out, and you know I'm alive. I can't imagine what you must be thinking right now. You probably have a million questions, and you're probably pretty angry too. You have every right to be. Mason stared at the screen, transfixed. His father continued, I need to tell you why I've been away all this time. It started when I discovered something terrible about our family business, something illegal that my Uncle Augustus was doing. For the next 15 minutes, Damon explained the entire story, discovering evidence of arms trafficking through the Martel Shipping Company, confronting Augustus, the threats, and finally the accident that had been meant to kill him. I survived by pure luck, Damon explained. My car went off the bridge, but I was thrown clear before it hit the water. I was badly injured, but a fisherman found me downstream. When I realized what had happened, I knew I had to disappear to keep you and your mom safe. He described how Eric, an old college friend who had resources and connections, had helped him create a new identity and stay hidden while gathering evidence against Augustus. The hardest part, Damon said, his voice cracking slightly, was staying away from you, watching from a distance as you grew up, missing your first day of school, your baseball games, everything. But Augustus made it clear that if I ever resurfaced, you and your mom would be the first targets. I couldn't risk that. Not even to be with you. Mason's eyes had welled with tears. Madison slid closer, putting an arm around his shoulders. I've been working all these years to build a case against Augustus and his organization, Damon continued. We're close now. Really close, and I promise you, Mason, once it's safe, I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you if you'll let me. The video ended with Damon looking directly into the camera, his eyes suspiciously bright. I love you, buddy. I never stopped. Not for a single day. I hope someday you can understand why I had to do this. And maybe, someday, you can forgive me. The screen went black. Silence filled the cabin. Madison looked at her son, whose face was streaked with tears. Mason. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. He looks different. 8 years is a long time, Madison said gently. But his eyes are the same, Mason added quietly. I remember his eyes. Eric cleared his throat from the doorway. There's more you both should know about Augustus. Madison gestured for him to join them. Tell us everything. Eric sat across from them, his expression grave. Augustus Martel built the family shipping business into an empire, but it wasn't enough. About 15 years ago, he made connections with arms dealers in Eastern Europe, started using Martel ships to transport illegal weapons. And Dad found out, Mason said. Yes. Damon discovered financial discrepancies in the company books. He did some digging and found evidence of the weapons trafficking. When he confronted Augustus, his uncle offered him a choice: join the operation or be eliminated as a threat. But Damon wouldn't do that, Madison said with certainty. No, he planned to take the evidence to the FBI, but before he could, Augustus's men tampered with his car. Eric's jaw tightened. The accident was meant to look like brake failure. What they didn't count on was Damon surviving. So all these years, he's been gathering evidence, Madison asked. Eric nodded, building an airtight case against Augustus and his entire network. It's been slow, dangerous work. Augustus has connections everywhere. Police, local government, even some federal agencies. Why now? Mason asked suddenly, showing the sharp intelligence that had always made Madison proud. Why are we here now, after 8 years? 2 reasons, Eric replied. First, Augustus is dying. Terminal cancer. He's become unpredictable, tying up loose ends. Second, he hesitated, glancing at Madison. The photograph, she supplied. Someone may have seen me recognize Damon in the photo at your party, which means they might suspect he's alive after all, Eric confirmed. For 8 years, Augustus believed Damon was dead if he now suspects otherwise. You both become targets. Leverage to draw Damon out. Mason's eyes widened. Are these guys like actual killers? Yes, Eric said bluntly. They are, which is why we moved you both to safety as soon as we detected surveillance on you. Mason fell silent, absorbing the reality of their situation. After a moment, he looked up at Eric. When do we see my dad? Tomorrow morning he's en route to a different secure location. We'll take you there at first light. Eric rose to leave, but Madison stopped him with a question. You said Augustus is tying up loose ends. What does that mean exactly? Eric's expression darkened. In the past month, 3 former Martel employees with knowledge of the weapons operation have died in accidents. A prosecutor who was building a case against one of Augustus's associates was found dead of an apparent suicide. It's a cleanup operation, and we're on the list, Madison said quietly. You shouldn't have been, but now... Eric left the implication hanging. Get some rest, both of you. Tomorrow will be... intense. After he left, Madison turned to find Mason watching her, his young face solemn. Are you scared, Mom? Madison considered lying, then thought better of it. Yes, but I'm also... hopeful? We're going to see your dad tomorrow. Yeah. Mason looked down at his hands. What do you even say to someone who's been dead for 8 years? Madison had been wondering the same thing. What do you say to the husband who let you grieve, struggle, and rebuild a life without him? All in the name of protection. I don't know, she admitted. I guess we'll figure it out tomorrow. Dawn broke over the lakeside cabin, pale light filtering through pine branches. Madison hadn't slept much, her mind racing with tomorrow's impending reunion. She found Mason already awake, sitting on the cabin's small porch, a blanket wrapped around his shoulders against the morning chill. Hey, she said softly, sitting beside him. You okay? Mason nodded, his eyes fixed on the mist rising from the lake. Just thinking. About your dad. Yeah. He picked at a loose thread on the blanket. I keep trying to remember him, you know. But I was so little when he left. Madison put her arm around him. You used to laugh exactly like him. This big belly laugh that would make everyone around you smile. And you have his eyes. Exactly his eyes. Do you think he'll like me? The question was so vulnerable, so painfully young, that Madison's heart clenched. Oh, sweetheart, he already loves you. He's always loved you. Before Mason could respond, the cabin door opened behind them. Eric stepped out, already dressed in jeans and a dark sweater, a travel mug of coffee in his hand. Good morning, he said. Car will be here in 30 minutes. James brought some breakfast from the main house. Inside, they found a spread of pastries, fruit, and coffee on the small kitchen table. James, Eric's security man, was checking something on his tablet. Everything clear for transport? Eric asked him. James nodded. Route secured. Surveillance shows no unusual activity. They ate mostly in silence, the weight of anticipation too heavy for small talk. When they finished, Eric led them to a different vehicle than the one they'd arrived in, a nondescript gray sedan with tinted windows. Where are we going? Madison asked as they pulled away from the cabin. About an hour north, Eric replied. Another property, more isolated than this one. The drive passed in tense silence. Mason stared out the window, occasionally fiddling with his phone despite the lack of signal. Madison tried to calm her racing thoughts. To prepare herself for seeing Damon again. What would she say? What would he look like now? Would there be any trace left of the man she had loved? Or had 8 years of hiding changed him beyond recognition? They turned onto a narrow private road that wound through dense forest before opening onto a clearing. A modern house stood in the center, all glass and cedar, blending into the natural surroundings. Several SUVs were parked in front. "We're here," Eric announced, pulling up to the entrance. Madison took a deep breath and reached for Mason's hand. He gripped hers tightly as they followed Eric into the house. The interior was spacious and minimal. Concrete floors, high ceilings, and windows that framed the surrounding forest like living paintings. Eric led them through the main living area to a door at the back of the house. "He's waiting in the study," Eric said, pausing with his hand on the doorknob. "I should warn you." "Just open it," Madison interrupted. She couldn't bear another moment of waiting. Eric nodded and pushed the door open. The man standing by the window turned as they entered. For a moment, Madison couldn't breathe. It was Damon, older, leaner, with more lines around his eyes and silver threading through his dark hair, but unmistakably her husband. The scar near his right eye, the strong line of his jaw, the particular way he held his shoulders, his eyes wide with emotion, moved from Madison to Mason, and back again. "Madison," he whispered, his voice exactly as she remembered. And then she was moving, crossing the room in quick strides, her hand connecting with his cheek in a stinging slap before she even realized what she was doing. The crack echoed in the quiet room. Damon didn't flinch or pull away. He simply stood there, accepting the blow as his due, eyes filled with understanding and regret. 8 years, Madison choked out, tears finally breaking free. 8 years, Damon. I know. His voice was rough with emotion. I know. Maddie, the old nickname broke something in her. With a sob, she fell against his chest, feeling his arms wrap around her, tentatively at first, then tighter as she didn't pull away. He smelled different. Unfamiliar cologne, different soap. But underneath was the essential scent of him, the one she'd thought she'd forgotten years ago. "I'm so sorry," he murmured into her hair. "So damn sorry." Madison pulled back, wiping tears from her face. "You let me think you were dead. To keep you safe, both of you." Damon's eyes moved to Mason, who stood frozen near the door. "Mason." The boy stared at his father, a tumult of emotions crossing his face. Damon took a hesitant step forward, then stopped, clearly unsure if his approach would be welcome. Eric quietly slipped out of the room, closing the door behind him to give the family privacy. "You're taller than I expected," Damon said softly. "Last time I saw you up close, you barely reached my waist." "When was that?" Mason asked, his voice smaller than Madison had heard it in years. Damon swallowed hard. "Your 10th birthday. I was there, at the park, wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses. I sat on a bench across from the playground." Madison gasped. "The man who helped when Mason fell off the monkey bars. That was you." Damon nodded. "I couldn't just watch him hurt himself. It was stupid, dangerous. I risked everything just to make sure he was okay. You've been watching us." Mason took a step forward. "All this time, when I could, when it was safe." Damon ran a hand through his hair, the familiar nervous gesture nearly undoing Madison again. "I have photos, videos. Eric's security team would send me updates, reports. I know it's not the same as being there, but I tried to keep you close however I could." Damon moved to a desk in the corner and opened a drawer, pulling out a laptop. "I want to show you something." Madison and Mason moved closer as Damon opened a folder labeled simply, "Family." Inside were hundreds of files, organized by date. He clicked on one from 3 years ago. The video showed Mason at a baseball game, stepping up to bat. The camera was distant but had zoomed in enough to clearly show his face. Screwed up in concentration, the crack of the bat connecting with the ball was followed by cheers as Mason ran to first base. "Your first home run," Damon said quietly. "Against the Riverside Eagles. Coach Jenkins gave you the game ball." Mason's eyes widened. "You were there. In disguise. At the back of the stands. I couldn't miss it." He opened another file. "Madison at Mason's school science fair. helping him set up his volcano project. Another, Mason riding his bike down their street, recently freed from training wheels. Another, Madison asleep on their couch, a book fallen open on her chest. "I've kept track of every milestone I could," Damon said, his voice thick. "Every birthday, every achievement, every ordinary day. It wasn't enough, not nearly enough, but it was all I had." Madison sank into a chair, overwhelmed. All those years she'd felt alone, struggled to keep their lives together. Damon had been watching from the shadows, a ghost in their peripheral vision. "Why couldn't you just take us with you?" Mason suddenly demanded, anger breaking through his shock. "We could have had fake names too. We could have been together. It was too dangerous," Damon explained gently. "Augustus's reach is extensive. He has people everywhere. Law enforcement, government agencies. A family disappearing raises flags that a single man doesn't. And you deserved stability, a normal life, school, friends, a community. I couldn't give you that on the run. So instead you gave us nothing," Mason shot back, hurt evident in every word. "Mason," Madison began, but Damon stopped her with a gesture. "No, he's right to be angry." Damon moved toward his son, stopping just short of touching him. "I made an impossible choice. Mason, and every day, every single day, I questioned if it was the right one. The only thing that kept me going was knowing you were safe. That's all that mattered to me." Mason stared at his father, conflict raging in his expression. Then, with the impulsiveness of youth, he suddenly lunged forward and threw his arms around Damon. The man froze for an instant before folding his son into a fierce embrace, his eyes squeezed shut against tears. Madison watched them, her own vision blurry. The two people she loved most in the world, reunited after 8 impossible years. It didn't erase the pain, the missed moments, the lonely nights. Nothing could, but it was a beginning. "We have so much to talk about," Damon said when they finally pulled apart. "So much to figure out. But first, we need to deal with Augustus. As long as he's a threat, none of us are truly safe. Eric mentioned a case you've been building," Madison said, finding her voice again. "Evidence against Augustus and his operation?" Damon nodded, his expression hardening. 8 years of work, and we're finally ready to move. "Then let's finish this," Madison said firmly, "so we can start putting our family back together." The reunion was cut short by a sharp knock at the study door. Eric entered, his expression tense. "We've got movement," he announced. "Surveillance just picked up 2 vehicles approaching from the South Access Road. They shouldn't be there." Damon's demeanor shifted instantly. The emotional father vanished, replaced by a man who had spent 8 years in the shadows, always watching his back. "How many?" "At least 4 men, possibly armed." "Augustus," Damon said grimly. He turned to Madison and Mason. "We need to move now." "How did they find us?" Madison asked, fear blooming in her chest. "Questions later," Eric replied, already moving toward the door. "James has the exit route secured. Basement level, through the tunnel." Madison felt a momentary shock at the word tunnel, but there was no time to process it. Damon had grabbed a small go bag from a desk drawer and was guiding Mason toward the door with a hand on his shoulder. "Dad," Mason's voice wavered slightly. "Are these the bad guys?" "Yes," Damon answered honestly. "But they won't get near you, I promise." They followed Eric through the house to what appeared to be a pantry off the kitchen. He pressed his palm against a seemingly ordinary section of shelving, and a hidden door slid open, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. "Cool," Mason breathed. Momentarily distracted from their danger by the secret passage, James awaited them at the bottom, looking grimly professional with a tactical vest and what Madison recognized with alarm as a semi-automatic pistol holstered at his side. "Status," Eric demanded. "They've breached the outer perimeter. Ida to the house. 3 minutes. Vehicle is ready in the secondary garage." Damon turned to Madison. "This tunnel connects to a garage about a 1/4 mile from the house. We'll take a vehicle from there to another safe location." Madison nodded, trying to project a calm she didn't feel for Mason's sake. The reality of their situation was crashing down on her. Armed men were hunting them. This wasn't a movie or a bad dream. This was their life now. They moved quickly through the concrete tunnel, lit by evenly spaced LED fixtures. James took point, Eric brought up the rear, and Damon kept Madison and Mason between them. The tunnel sloped gently downward, then curved and began to rise again. "Almost there," Damon murmured reassuringly. A distant sound echoed behind them, a muffled boom that Madison felt more than heard. Eric glanced back, his expression darkening. "They're in the house, moving faster than anticipated. How would they know about this place?" Damon demanded. "It's not in my name or yours. We've got a leak," Eric replied grimly. "Someone close." They reached another set of stairs leading up to a heavy metal door. James punched a code into a keypad, and the door unlocked with a hydraulic hiss. Beyond it was a small garage housing a single black SUV with tinted windows. "Everyone in," James ordered. "Dr. Martell, you're with me in the front." Madison startled at the formal address. Dr. Martell, of course. Damon had been a history professor before his death, another piece of their past life, almost forgotten in the chaos. They piled into the vehicle, Damon in the passenger seat, Madison and Mason in the back with Eric. James started the engine and pressed a remote that opened the garage door, revealing a narrow dirt road winding through dense forest. "Head for Site Echo," Eric instructed. "We'll regroup and assess from there." James pulled out, accelerating quickly as the SUV's tires found purchase on the gravel road. Madison clutched Mason's hand, watching her son's brave attempt to hide his fear. "It's going to be okay," she told him, hoping she sounded more confident than she felt. The SUV had only traveled about half a mile when James suddenly swore and slammed on the brakes. Ahead, blocking the narrow road, was a black sedan with tinted windows. "Reverse," Eric snapped. "Now!" James threw the SUV into reverse, but as he did, another vehicle appeared behind them, effectively boxing them in. "Options?" Damon asked tersely. "We're surrounded," James replied, his hand moving to his weapon. "Forest on both sides is too dense for the vehicle. Then we make a stand," Eric decided. He reached under his seat and pulled out a handgun, checking it with practiced ease. The casual competence with which Eric handled the weapon stunned Madison. This wasn't the polished businessman she'd met at the fundraiser. This was someone else entirely. "Madison, Mason, stay down and in the vehicle," Damon instructed, his voice steady despite the tension evident in his body. "No matter what happens, do not get out unless one of us tells you it's safe." Madison nodded, pulling Mason close, trying to shield him with her body. Outside, men were emerging from both vehicles. 4 in total, all armed. "Let me handle this," Eric said quietly to Damon. "They may not recognize me." Before anyone could object, Eric had opened his door and stepped out, keeping the SUV between himself and the approaching men. His gun was hidden behind his leg. "Gentlemen," he called, his voice carrying easily in the forest silence. "I think you're lost. This is private property." One of the men, tall and broad-shouldered with a military buzz cut, stepped forward. "We're looking for someone who belongs to us. A family matter. No one here but me and my security team," Eric replied coolly. "Weekend hunting trip. You're trespassing." The man smiled unpleasantly. "Cut the crap, Walker. We know Damon Martell is with you. And his wife and kid, too." Madison felt a chill at hearing their names spoken so casually by this threatening stranger. Beside her, Mason trembled slightly but remained silent. "I don't know what you're talking about," Eric maintained his bluff. "There's no one by that name here." The man sighed theatrically. "Have it your way." He raised his hand in a signal, and the other men raised their weapons. What happened next unfolded with shocking speed. James burst from the driver's side, firing 2 precise shots that dropped one of the men. Eric dove for cover, returning fire. The forest erupted with gunshots, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. "Stay down," Damon shouted, pushing Madison and Mason to the floor of the SUV. Through the window, Madison caught glimpses of the firefight, Eric moving with surprising agility between trees, James providing covering fire from behind the SUV's engine block. The woods that had seemed so peaceful just moments ago now echoed with violence. A bullet shattered the rear window, sending glass cascading over them. Mason stifled a scream as Madison covered his head with her arms, feeling tiny shards slice into her exposed skin. "We need to move." Damon's voice was urgent, but controlled. "The SUV isn't safe anymore. You said to stay in the car," Mason protested, his voice shaking. "Plans change, buddy. We're going to make a run for the trees. Stay low. Stay behind me." Madison's blood ran cold at the thought of exposing Mason to the gunfire, but the alternative, remaining in the increasingly vulnerable vehicle, seemed worse. "On my signal," Damon said, reaching back to grip Mason's shoulder. 3, 2, 1. They burst from the SUV, Damon leading the way, Madison keeping Mason tucked against her side as they sprinted for the tree line. Bullets thudded into the ground around them. Tree bark exploded next to Madison's head, but somehow they made it to cover unscathed. "Keep moving," Damon urged, guiding them deeper into the forest. "There's a ranger station 2 miles north. We can get help there." They pushed through dense undergrowth, the sounds of gunfire growing more distant behind them. Madison's lungs burned, her legs protesting the punishing pace. But fear drove her forward. Mason kept up admirably, his young legs finding purchase on the uneven ground. After what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes, Damon called a halt in a small clearing. "Need to check our position," he gasped, pulling a small device from his pocket that Madison recognized as a GPS unit. "What about Eric and James?" Madison asked, her breath coming in ragged gulps. "They'll be fine," Damon said, but his expression betrayed his uncertainty. "They're professionals. They were shooting at us," Mason said, his voice small but remarkably steady. "Those men were really trying to kill us." Damon knelt in front of his son, placing his hands on the boy's shoulders. "Yes, they were, and I'm so sorry you had to see that, but I promise you, Mason, I will not let anything happen to you or your mom, not ever again." Madison watched the interaction, a strange sense of déjà vu washing over her, despite 8 years apart. Despite everything that had happened, the connection between father and son remained. Damon still knew exactly how to comfort Mason. Direct, honest, reassuring. A twig snapped in the forest behind them. All three froze, Damon's hand immediately going to his waistband where Madison now noticed he had a concealed weapon. "Don't shoot," called a familiar voice. "It's me." Eric emerged from the trees, disheveled and with a bloody scrape across his forehead, but otherwise intact. "James?" Damon asked tensely. Eric's expression tightened. "Took a hit. I had to leave him. But he was alive and the hostiles were down. All of them," 3 confirmed. "One ran. I called in a cleanup team." Eric checked his watch. "We need to keep moving. The runner will bring reinforcements." Madison saw the barely concealed anguish in Damon's eyes at leaving James behind. Another reminder of the dangerous world he'd been living in, where hard choices and sacrifices were everyday occurrences. "Which way?" Damon asked, all business again. Eric pointed north. "I've got a vehicle stashed about a mile from here. We can make it before dark if we hurry." As they set off again through the forest, Madison caught Damon's eye. A silent message passed between them. This was the reality of the threat they faced. Augustus Martel wasn't just a distant bogeyman. His reach was real, immediate, and deadly, and they were running out of places to hide. Eric's stashed vehicle turned out to be an old pickup truck hidden under a camouflage tarp behind an abandoned hunting cabin. The truck started on the first try, despite its weathered appearance. "You really do think of everything," Madison commented as they climbed in. Mason squeezed between her and Damon in the single bench seat. 8 years of staying one step ahead teaches you to prepare for contingencies," Eric replied, pulling onto a rutted dirt road. "We have safe houses and vehicles scattered across 3 states. "Where are we going now?" Mason asked, his voice steadier than Madison would have expected after what they'd just been through. "Somewhere Augustus would never think to look," Damon answered. "Somewhere hiding in plain sight." As darkness fell, they emerged from the forest onto secondary highways, gradually making their way toward the coast. Madison recognized the route. They were heading back toward Charleston. "You're taking us home?" she asked incredulously. "Not exactly," Eric said, "but close." An hour later, they turned into the Marina District, winding through narrow streets lined with seafood restaurants and tourist shops. Closed now in the off-season darkness, Eric parked behind a weathered building with a sign reading, "Pelican Point Charters." "A boat," Madison guessed. "My boat," Damon corrected. Or rather, David Mitchell's boat. The name meant nothing to Madison until she realized that must be Damon's alias. They moved quickly from the truck to the docks, where a sleek cabin cruiser rocked gently against its moorings. Once aboard, Eric started the engines while Damon led Madison and Mason below deck to a surprisingly spacious cabin. "Home, sweet home," Damon said with a hint of awkwardness. "For the past 3 years." Anyway, Madison looked around at the compact living space. A small kitchenette, a dining table that converted to a bed, built-in storage everywhere. It was neat and functional, but with personal touches, books lining custom shelves, a chess set secured to a side table, framed maps on the walls, and photos. Even in his secret life, Damon had kept photos, Mason's school pictures, which Madison recognized from the copies she'd ordered each year. A candid shot of Madison laughing at something, her head thrown back, taken from a distance without her knowledge. Images from their life that he'd refused to leave behind, even in hiding. "You lived here in Charleston?" Madison felt a surge of frustration. "All this time you were right here." "Not always," Damon said, understanding her anger. "I moved around. But yes, for the past few years I've been close. It was risky, but I needed to be near you both." The engines rumbled to life, and they felt the boat begin to move. Eric came down the stairs. "We're clear of the marina. I'll keep us offshore tonight, away from any potential surveillance." "I'll take first watch," Damon said, moving toward the steps. "No." Eric stopped him with a hand on his shoulder. "You need to be with your family. I've got this." After Eric returned to the wheelhouse, an awkward silence fell over the small cabin. They'd been running for their lives just hours ago, propelled by adrenaline and necessity. Now, confined together in this intimate space, the weight of 8 years of separation pressed down. "Are you hungry?" Damon finally asked, breaking the tension. "I've got supplies." "Starving," Mason admitted. Damon moved to the small refrigerator with the easy familiarity of someone in their own space. Madison watched him assemble sandwiches with efficient movements, noting how he remembered without asking that Mason liked extra mayo but no tomatoes, that she preferred mustard to mayo. They ate at the small table, the gentle rocking of the boat punctuating the silence. Madison studied Damon's face in the cabin's warm light. The changes were subtle but significant. Fine lines at the corners of his eyes, a permanent furrow between his brows that hadn't been there before, a wariness in his expression that only occasionally softened when he looked at Mason. "So, you've been David Mitchell all this time?" Madison finally asked. Damon nodded. "Among others, I've had several identities. David's been the most permanent, though." "What do you do, I mean, for work, for life?" The question felt both mundane and enormous. "I'm a charter captain, take tourists out fishing, diving." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "I was a history teacher who grew up afraid of the ocean, and now I make my living on it. Ironic." "Do you like it?" Mason asked, his natural curiosity overcoming his reticence. "It's peaceful, just you and the water and the sky." Damon's expression softened. "And it's solitary, fewer chances for someone to recognize me." "What about friends?" Madison pressed. "You just existed alone all this time." Pain flashed across Damon's face. "I had Eric, a few trusted contacts, but mostly, yes, isolation was safest." The enormity of his sacrifice began to sink in. 8 years of solitude, 8 years of watching his family from a distance, 8 years of living under false names, always looking over his shoulder. It didn't erase the pain of his absence, but it contextualized it in a way Madison hadn't fully grasped before. "Tell me about your life," Damon said, changing the subject. "The real version, not the sanitized reports I got." Madison met his eyes. "It was hard, really hard, especially at first. I almost lost the apartment a few times, worked 3 jobs for a while. I tried to help where I could," Damon said quietly. "The anonymous deposits, the scholarship for Mason's school, I know that now, but at the time," Madison's voice faltered. "At the time, I just felt abandoned. By you, by your family, by everyone." Mason watched this exchange silently, his eyes moving between his parents with an understanding beyond his years. "Your family never reached out after the funeral," Madison continued. "Not once." "They knew," Damon said, his voice hardening. "Augustus knew I wasn't in that car. He covered it up, made sure the body was unrecognizable, paid off the medical examiner. The whole charade was to convince you, not them." The realization landed like a physical blow. All those years thinking Damon's family had abandoned them in grief, when in reality, they'd known he was alive, and still chose to leave Madison and Mason struggling. "I hate them," Mason said suddenly, his young voice fierce. "I hate what they did to us." Damon reached across the table, taking his son's hand. "They're not worth your hate, buddy. They're not family. Not real family. You and your mom. That's family. The way you took care of each other all these years. That's what matters." Mason stared at their joined hands, his small one enveloped in his father's larger, weathered one. "I barely remember you," he admitted, his voice small. "Just feelings, mostly, and Mom's stories. I've missed so much," Damon said, anguish evident in every word. "Your whole childhood. I can never get that back. But you're here now," Madison found herself saying, surprising even herself with the forgiveness implicit in those words. Damon looked at her, hope and disbelief warring in his expression. "I am. And if you'll let me, I want to be part of your lives again. Both of your lives, when this is over. If we survive," Madison said realistically. "We will." Damon's jaw set with determination. "I've spent 8 years building a case against Augustus. It's finally ready tomorrow. We take everything we have to the FBI. Special agents I've vetted personally, outside Augustus's sphere of influence." "And then what?" Mason asked. "We just go back to normal. There's no going back to what was before," Damon acknowledged. "Too much has changed. But we can build something new if you want that." The question hung in the air, directed at both of them, but especially at Madison. Could they forgive 8 years of absence, of lies, of struggle? Could they build a new life from the ashes of what had been destroyed? "I think," Madison said slowly, "that's a conversation for after we're safe." Damon nodded, accepting the non-answer with grace. "Fair enough." Mason yawned suddenly, the day's stress and excitement catching up to him. Damon immediately stood. "You can take the main berth," he said, gesturing to a small door. "It's not much, but it's comfortable." "Where will you sleep?" Mason asked. "I'll be up with Eric. We'll take watches through the night." Madison helped Mason get settled in the tiny bedroom, tucking him in as she had when he was much younger. He allowed it without the usual preteen protests, a sign of how shaken he truly was. "Mom," he whispered as she turned to leave, "do you think we'll ever be a normal family again?" Madison smoothed his hair back from his forehead. "I don't know if normal is in the cards for us, sweetheart, but we'll be a family. I promise you that." When she returned to the main cabin, Damon was standing by the window looking out at the dark water. The lines of his body were tense, watchful, the posture of a man who had lived 8 years in constant vigilance. "He's asleep," Madison said softly. Damon turned. In the dim cabin light, with his guard momentarily lowered, he looked achingly like the man she had married. Vulnerable, earnest, loving. For a brief, disorienting moment, it was as if the 8 years had never happened. "Madison," he began, his voice rough with emotion. "I know I can never make up for—" "Not tonight," she interrupted gently. "We're all exhausted, running on adrenaline and emotion. Whatever needs to be said between us, it can wait until we're safe." Damon nodded, accepting her boundary. "You should rest. Tomorrow will be challenging." As Madison settled onto the converted dining table bed, she heard Damon climb the stairs to the deck. She lay awake, listening to the gentle sounds of the boat, trying to process the seismic shift her life had undergone in the span of 3 days. Her husband was alive. They were being hunted by killers. And somehow, in the midst of danger and reunion and 8 years of grief, a small, treacherous seed of hope had taken root in her heart. Tomorrow, they would face Augustus's organization. Tomorrow, they would fight for their future. But tonight, for the first time in 8 years, they were all under the same roof. A broken, wounded family, but a family nonetheless. Dawn broke over the Atlantic, painting the eastern sky in shades of pink and gold. Madison found Damon at the bow of the boat, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise with an intensity that suggested he was seeing far more than just the coming day. "Did you sleep at all?" she asked, accepting the second mug he offered. "A few hours." His voice was low, mindful of Mason still sleeping below. Eric took most of the watch. They stood in silence, watching the coastline of South Carolina grow more distinct as Eric guided the boat toward shore. The familiar Charleston skyline emerged from the morning mist, church steeples and historic buildings silhouetted against the brightening sky. "I never thought I'd be coming back like this," Damon said quietly. "As yourself, you mean?" He nodded. "Damon Martell died on that bridge 8 years ago, at least officially." He turned to her, his expression serious. "After today, there's no going back to David Mitchell or any other identity. Whatever happens, I'll face it as myself." "And what exactly is happening today?" Madison asked, realizing she still didn't know the specifics of their plan. "We're meeting FBI Special Agent Harding at 9 a.m. She's been building a case against Augustus's operation for years, independent of my evidence. Combined, we finally have enough to bring down the entire network. Can she be trusted? As much as anyone can be. She's from outside the Charleston office, brought in specifically because too many local agents have connections to the Martell family." Damon's jaw tightened. Augustus has spent decades building his influence. Judges, police, politicians, he has people everywhere. Madison absorbed this, feeling the weight of what they were up against. And if it works, if Augustus is arrested, then it's over. Damon's voice held cautious hope. "I can come back from the dead. We can. Figure out what comes next." The implied question hung between them. What did come next for a family shattered and reassembled under such extraordinary circumstances? Before Madison could respond, the boat's engine changed pitch as Eric reduced speed. They were approaching a small private dock, well away from the main marina. "We're here," Damon said. "Time to wake Mason." The safe house was a nondescript colonial in a quiet Charleston suburb, the last place anyone would look for fugitives. Inside, they found a woman waiting, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun, her posture military straight. "Special Agent Harding," she introduced herself with a brisk handshake. "Dr. Martell, you're supposed to be dead. Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated," Damon replied dryly. "Clearly," her sharp eyes turned to Madison and Mason. "Mrs. Martell, Mason, I understand this has been quite a shock for you both." "That's putting it mildly," Madison said. Agent Harding nodded sympathetically before turning all business again. "We need to move quickly. Augustus Martell was admitted to Charleston Memorial last night with complications from his cancer treatment. Security is minimal. It's our best opportunity to confront him with the evidence and get a confession." "A hospital confrontation," Eric interjected. "That seems necessary," Harding finished firmly. "My superiors are reluctant to move against someone of Augustus's standing without ironclad evidence or a confession. His health gives us both humanitarian cover for the visit and a potential psychological advantage." "What about his men?" Madison asked, thinking of the armed thugs who had ambushed them in the forest. "We've identified and are tracking his primary security detail. They're currently at Martell Manor." "Not the hospital." Harding checked her watch. "We have a brief window, Dr. Martell. Are you ready to confront the man who tried to kill you?" Damon's expression hardened. "I've been ready for 8 years." Agent Harding nodded, then turned to Madison. "Mrs. Martell, you and your son will remain here with an agent. It's safer." "No," Madison interrupted firmly. "We've been separated from Damon for 8 years because of Augustus Martell. We're seeing this through together." Damon looked at her with surprise and something like pride. Agent Harding seemed about to object, but Eric stepped in. "I'll personally guarantee their safety," he said. "And having the family Augustus try to destroy standing united might be exactly the shock value we need." After a moment of consideration, Harding relented. "Fine, but you follow my lead. Stay behind me at all times. And if I say run, you run. Understood?" Madison and Mason both nodded. "Then let's end this," Harding said. Once and for all, Charleston Memorial's VIP wing was hushed and elegant, more resembling a luxury hotel than a hospital. Augustus Martell had a private suite at the end of a quiet corridor, with a single nurse's station visible between the elevators and his room. Agent Harding showed her credentials to the duty nurse. "FBI, we need to speak with Mr. Martell." "He's quite ill," the nurse protested. "Doctor's orders are minimal disturbance. This won't take long," Harding assured her with a tone that brooked no argument. The nurse hesitated, then buzzed them through. Agent Harding entered first, followed by Damon. With Madison and Mason close behind, Eric remained just outside, watching the corridor. Augustus Martell lay propped against pillows, looking far older and frailer than Madison remembered from the few times she'd met him before Damon cut ties with his family. Once a robust, intimidating figure, he now seemed diminished, his skin sallow against the white hospital sheets. An IV stand beside the bed delivered medication through a tube into his arm. He glanced up irritably at the intrusion, eyes narrowing at Agent Harding's badge. Then his gaze moved past her to Damon, and the blood drained from his face. "Hello, Uncle," Damon said quietly. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Impossible," Augustus whispered, his voice a dry rasp. His eyes darted to the call button near his hand. "Don't bother," Agent Harding advised, stepping closer to the bed. "Your security detail won't be interrupting us." Augustus's shock at seeing Damon gave way to a calculating coldness that sent a chill down Madison's spine. Even dying, even caught completely off guard, the man radiated menace. "What do you want?" he demanded, his voice strengthening. "Justice," Damon replied simply. "For 8 years I've gathered evidence of your weapons trafficking, your money laundering, your connections to organized crime. It's over." Augustus, a flicker of something, fear, respect, crossed the old man's face before vanishing behind a mask of contempt. His gaze moved to Madison and Mason. "So you brought your little family for a reunion?" he sneered. "How touching. The teacher and the waitress and their brat." Madison felt Mason tense beside her and placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. "We're here to see justice done," she said, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. Augustus laughed, the sound like dry leaves rustling. "Justice? You think anyone will believe the word of a man who's been legally dead for 8 years? Against mine, I built this city, girl. I own half the judges in South Carolina." "Not this one," Agent Harding interjected, holding up her phone. "Everything you're saying is being recorded and transmitted to Judge Williams of the Federal Circuit. She's standing by with a warrant for your arrest and the seizure of all Martell assets pending investigation." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Augustus's face. He rallied quickly. "I'm a dying man," he said, gesturing to the medical equipment surrounding him. "You think I care about threats at this point? You have nothing concrete." "We have the offshore accounts," Damon countered. "We have the shipping manifests. We have testimony from your former associates, the ones who are still alive. Anyway, and now we have your implicit confession, recorded and witnessed." Augustus stared at his nephew, genuine astonishment replacing his contempt. "How?" he finally asked. "How did you survive?" "I saw the body myself." "You saw what I wanted you to see," Damon replied. "You taught me well, Uncle. Always have a contingency plan." A strange expression crossed Augustus's face. Almost respect, mixed with bitter amusement. "Smarter than I gave you credit for," he admitted. "Your father would have been proud. He never had the spine for the real family business." "Don't talk about my father," Damon said, his voice hardening. "He was twice the man you are." Augustus's gaze shifted to Mason. "The boy has the Martell look," he observed, his tone suddenly conversational. "The eyes, the jaw, our blood. He's nothing like you," Madison said sharply, pulling Mason closer. "We'll see." Augustus smiled thinly. "Blood tells in the end." Agent Harding stepped forward. "Augustus Martell, you're under arrest for conspiracy, arms trafficking, money laundering, attempted murder, and obstruction of justice. Agents are currently executing search warrants at Martell Manor and all company properties. It's over." As if on cue, the door opened, and 2 FBI agents entered. Augustus watched with strange detachment as they recited his rights. "You've won this round, nephew," he said, his eyes still fixed on Damon. "But remember, empires may fall, but they can also rise again, from the ashes." "Not this time," Damon said with finality. "Goodbye, Uncle." As they left the room, Madison felt a weight lifting, the burden of fear and uncertainty that had pressed down on them since the moment she'd seen Damon's face in that photograph. In the hospital corridor, Damon pulled Madison and Mason into a tight embrace, his body trembling slightly with released tension. "It's really over?" Madison asked, hardly daring to believe it. "Almost," Damon replied. "There will be paperwork, testimonies, Legal proceedings to resurrect me officially, but the danger... He looked down at his son, a smile breaking through. The danger is over. Mason looked up at his father, still cautious but with growing hope. So what happens now? Damon met Madison's eyes over their son's head, the question clear in his expression. What did happen now? Could they rebuild from here? Find a way forward as a family? Madison reached up to touch Damon's face, tracing the familiar scar near his eye, the small mark that had both identified a stranger's body as his, and later helped her recognize him in a photograph. "Now," she said softly, "we start again." As they walked out of the hospital into the bright Charleston morning, Madison felt the first genuine stirrings of hope. Their path forward wouldn't be easy. 8 years couldn't be erased, and the wounds of separation would take time to heal. But they were together. Damon, Madison, and Mason, a family fractured by circumstance but ultimately unbroken. And in the end, that was the plot twist she'd never seen coming. Not just survival, but the chance for something more. Redemption, forgiveness, and the promise of a future they would build together.